This isn't the first time. And we've had this conversation.
With me in studio tonight is Steve Moulton. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming. I know that you've been trying to get on the show for quite a while, so I finally...
I was beginning to wonder if you received my letters. Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't mean to pass the buck, but there are a lot of different departments and things, and yeah, I know your reps were trying to get you in here for a while, so thanks for coming.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be here. It's a great show. I've been listening for a long time. I love it.
Well, thank you. Now, I know that that you had some issues. I guess that's like why you were writing in, and I'm not afraid of confrontation on this show. So, whatever it is that you wanted to say about our topic, I'm ready to hear it.
Well, as entertaining and as well thought out, and certainly as well researched as a lot of your guests have been, the bottom line is none of them have just, had the sack to say movies get renamed all the time, okay? And as much as I enjoy your show, I feel like you're barking up the wrong tree here. Movies get renamed all the time. I don't understand why Live, Die, Repeat is giving you such a hard time. I'm sorry, Edge of Tomorrow.
Colon,
Live, Die, Repeat.
This is why. Do you see what just happened right there?
I see what just happened right there. But, sir, movies are over 100 years old. They get renamed all the time.
What, movies are over 100? So you're saying movies just in general are over 100 years old?
The art of filmmaking is over 100 years old, yes.
Okay. I don't see how that factors into any of this.
Evolution, my friend. Just things have to evolve. If a movie gets released as Edge of Tomorrow and then they want to call it Live, Die, Repeat when they put it on DVD.
Live, Die, Repeat, colon, Edge of Tomorrow.
Live, Die, Repeat, colon, Edge of Tomorrow when they put it on DVD. That is their choice. That is the choice of their marketing team. I'm afraid you're just going to have to learn to live with it.
Okay, so just because somebody makes a choice in life, you think that's fine. That there's no such thing as a right and wrong. Do we just live in a society that has no rules, that has no morals?
Of course there's right and wrong. Of course there's rules. There are morals. But why you're getting so bent out of shape about what is a top-notch Tom Cruise sci-fi thrill ride is just beyond me. As one of your biggest fans, it's beyond me.
Well, I'm curious why you're one of my biggest fans if you seem to be so in disagreement with me.
Well, why would I want to be a big fan of somebody that I agree with all the time? If I agree with them all the time, hey, guess what? Their show already lives in my head. Your show gives me something to listen to and something to react to.
All right. Well, I guess I just feel like people in general, maybe I'm annoyed with human nature and how people they don't appreciate what they have. Edge of Tomorrow was a fine title. Just
fine title.
Yeah, just run with it. You don't have to just keep trying to refine something. Don't you think?
But does it give the viewer any idea of what to expect in this movie? Look at Office Christmas Party.
Yeah.
What's that movie about?
An Office Christmas Party.
You nailed it. You knew exactly what you were in for when you went in there to watch it, and then you loved it.
So you think that that's how we should name movies? Just simply say, here's what happens in the movie. There's just no art to the name whatsoever. Live, Die, Repeat. That's exactly the plot of the movie. Let's just...
It's not how we should name every movie, but it's how certain movies should be named. All right? I mean, think about how many movies have been renamed over the history of cinema. Did you know Citizen Kane? Citizen Kane, widely agreed upon to be like the greatest filmmaking feat of all time. A lot of people don't know this. When Orson Welles was writing Citizen Kane, which he wrote on the head of a shovel with a piece of chalk.
The entire film?
Originally, the first draft. Well, maybe the first outline.
Okay.
He just called it Sled Boy.
Sled Boy?
He wanted to call it Sled Boy.
Yes, I have heard this. Sled Boy. That's
so much more happens in that movie than just a boy in his sled. He did what he had to do. He renamed the movie Citizen Kane.
But why just keep tooling with something? The movie it's Sled Boy. That's it. That's his first inspiration. Just stick with it and
If you were reading the AFI Top 100 list and you got down to number 1 and it said Sled Boy, you would want to burn down your own house.
Perhaps.
You would want to burn down your own house.
I don't know about that. Well, I like the idea of just going with your first instinct. You know, like Taxi Driver was first called Meet the Taxi Driver.
Meet the Taxi Driver.
Which,
okay.
if they had stuck with their original instinct, I think that would have made a lot. It would have been cool. See, they didn't know Meet the Parents was coming with De Niro.
I feel like Taxi Driver is cleaner.
It's okay.
They made the change. They did what they had to do.
It's cleaner, but think of how cool it would have been when Meet the Parents came out with De Niro. They would have seemed like fortune tellers.
And then you think his character in Taxi Driver should have grown up to be a retired CIA man.
I'm not saying the character
living a beautiful suburban life.
I'm not saying the character transfers over. I'm just saying the filmmakers would have seemed clairvoyant if they had just stuck with their original thing, right?
Well, Martin Scorsese's entire career begs to differ, sir. Hot Tub Time Machine. Mm-hmm. Great movie.
Yeah.
A lot of people gave it flack because the title Hot Tub Time Machine, much like Office Christmas Party, maybe it's just a little too on the nose and maybe it's a little too silly. But guess what they wanted to call it? Originally, draft number 1, they were calling it The Time Traveler's Wife. A movie that came out 1 year before Hot Tub Time Machine.
That would have been great.
It would have been great.
Yeah. Why don't they just stick with their original idea? Because then they could have capitalized off the marketing from the first film.
Time Traveler's Wife already hit theaters. It was already a success. They can't keep calling it Time Traveler's Wife.
But then they just release a movie that's saying exactly what it is, Hot Tub Time Machine. That's like Live, Die, Repeat.
Live, Die, Repeat in a Hot Tub Time Machine. Think about that. Are you thinking about it?
I am. That actually might be a good movie. If you just never got out of a hot tub.
What I want to know is, did the guys from Hot Tub Time Machine or the guys from Time Traveler's Wife do any time traveling?
In real life?
Maybe.
Maybe.
They both wrote movies about time being traveled.
Perhaps.
One came out before the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Who knew what? Who knew what and when?
This is something I could do a podcast about.
Well,
this is a new thing to investigate, perhaps.
I mean, your favorite movie ever, Edge of Tomorrow, Live, Die, Repeat, or vice versa.
Wait a second.
What's that about?
It's not my favorite movie ever.
Seems to be.
You think that
I've listened to so many episodes of this show, I have to assume it's your favorite movie ever if you're talking about it this much. What do they travel through in that movie? Time?
That's true.
Maybe no. We're cracking into something bigger here.
Well, I would say a closer guess to my favorite movie ever is Back to the Future, which was originally called The Magical Clock Tower. And I think that that title, I think, would have been a good one to just stick with.
I remember.
Don't you?
But they were using science in that movie, not magic. The magic was in the hearts of the audience as we sat down to watch Marty McFly travel through time to help his much older friend, Doc Brown.
So you think they should have called it The Scientific Clock Tower?
I think they saw the title, The Magic Clock Tower, and they thought
Magical Clock Tower.
The Magical Clock Tower, and they said, you know what? It's a nice title. It's not the best title. What do we do now? Somewhere along the line, Zemeckis, Spielberg, J. Fox, probably even Lloyd, one of them came up with, you know what? Back to the Future. Think about it. Somebody else thought about it, and they greenlit it. And boom, we've got one of the most legendary trilogies ever on our hands. A legendary comedic trilogy at that.
It's fairly comedic, yes, but I would call it more of an adventure film.
Certainly it's an adventure film, but it's a very funny adventure film.
Or The Matrix was...
A man calls his cousin, and his cousin turns out to invent rock and roll. That's comedy.
That is comedy. The Matrix, I think, should have stuck with its original title. Do you know what that was? It was.
Please enlighten me, Mr. Caleb.
It was Hack This, You Can't.
Hack This, You Can't.
Yeah, and then, obviously, as you know, Neo can hack the Matrix.
He can, it's true.
So I think that's a great title because it makes you, it's like a challenge to the audience, right? And then they just overthought it, and they...
You would have rather sat down to a movie about kung fu and alternate realities and people walking around with plugs all over their body, and you wanted to sit down and start shoveling popcorn in your mouth thinking you're about to watch Hack This, You Can't.
Yeah.
That's the America you want to live in?
Well, it would have felt like a challenge to me. Everybody would have had laptops in the audience. Like, what am I going to hack? Right?
I have to just make a blanket statement right now. I don't ever want to see somebody break out a laptop computer when I'm in a public movie theater, paying my hard-earned money to watch a movie. Phone screens are bad enough. I see a laptop come out, my baseball bat comes out, which I keep with me in every movie theater I go to.
Okay, I can
Hack this. You can't. Come on, get real. You want to hear about another great title change?
Sure.
That a lot of people don't know. Stephen King's It.
Yeah.
Scary movie about a scary clown doing scary things. You want to know the original title they were going to go with that? Even though the book is called It, written by Stephen King, they were going to call the made-for-TV movie It's Stephen King.
It's Stephen King?
It's Stephen King. Terrible idea.
Wait, so they basically call it Stephen King's It now.
Well, now it's just called It, but it's good to say Stephen King's It because...
For clarity, right.
To clear it up.
Right.
Oddly enough, I stuttered a lot when I was trying to say the phrase to clear it up. They changed the title to simply It to match the very famous book that he had already written, already published, already reached the New York Times bestseller list with somebody somewhere along the line with a little bit of sway, thought, let's call it It's Stephen King. Bah. And people rolled with that for a little while. I heard Ritter say in the commentary that they all showed up day one of filming thinking we're making a movie called It's Stephen King. And it wasn't until they shot the Chinese restaurant scene that somebody finally came along and said, we're switching the title back to the title of the book. It's just called It.
It is just It. Well, first off, It is a terrible title. It's confusing. It's Stephen King would have made me think that maybe Stephen King is this clown, and that the whole time that we've known about Stephen King, he's this clown. So I would have gone to the theater, or the TV, I suppose. It was a TV movie.
It was a TV movie.
I would have gone to the TV watching this to see what Stephen King is. It's Stephen King.
And you would have been looking at that clown on your TV, played by the legendary Tim Curry.
And
you would have sat there. I don't think that's true.
No, it's not.
Tim Curry hasn't passed away, has he?
I was just messing with you.
Well, mission accomplished, because I was very alarmed when you said that.
Sorry. On Mother's Day,
and you wanted to be looking at that movie and just thinking to yourself, any second now, he's going to wipe off that makeup and he's going to be Stephen King. That's the mindset you were watching It with when you were a child.
I think they would have had higher ratings for that TV movie if they had called it It's Stephen King.
Wow. It's already one of the most legendary TV movies ever.
Yeah, and
higher ratings might not exist for that. It
could be more legendary if they'd just not overthought it. That's what I'm saying about Edge of Tomorrow. Don't overthink it. Just go with your original guess.
I think the overthinking is sometimes necessary. Edge of Tomorrow, cool title. Doesn't tell me anything about what's about to happen to Emily Blunt or Tom Cruise. All it lets me know is, hey, if there's a tomorrow for me out there, am I on the edge of it right now? I don't know. What happens in the movie? They live, they die, they repeat the process.
Okay, how about this? We all know Inception was originally called Dream Injection.
It sure was.
Which I think is a great title because it's active. It's you're going to go to this movie and get a dream injection, are you? You wonder? Or are we just watching people get injections of dreams? What is a dream injection? It leaves a lot more questions. Inception is like...
Inception.
Yeah, but it's so vague. It could be anything. And so they should have stuck with the original title, just Dream Injection.
They explain it very clearly in the script. They do show people getting injections while dreaming. It's true. Inception, cleaner title. Period. They show you the big maze. The maze spells out the word Inception. Imagine how big that maze would have to be if it was going to spell out the phrase dream injection. It would have taken up more than any movie screen size.
Obviously, they would they would make the maze different. They would make it fit the title.
Nothing changes the maze. Nothing. The title comes first, then they make it look like a maze. You act like you've never seen a Christopher Nolan movie before.
I've seen a Nolan.
Have you, though? Have you? You know the man's directed 3 different Batman movies, right?
Yes, I know that.
Okay.
What, did their titles change too?
I mean, look at it this way. One was Batman Begins. But then it went to The Dark Knight, no mention of Batman.
Interesting.
And then The Dark Knight Rises, no mention of Batman in that title. Somebody, somewhere, realized a change needed to be made and exclude the phrase Batman from the title of the other two movies in the trilogy Christopher Nolan was directing.
I'm really glad you don't talk that way all the time.
A lot of people are really glad I don't talk that way all the time.
But see, they overthought it. They should have called it just the Batman Knight.
You wanted Batman Begins, The Batman Knight, and The Batman Knight Rises. Those
the Batman Rises. The Batman Rises. What? Look at that. They had a perfectly great title, Batman Begins, and then they just start screwing around, just second-guessing themselves.
But the first movie they changed the title on is the best of the three.
That's a coincidence. You think the title made that movie better than the other two?
If that movie had been called Batman
Knight,
or
The Batman Knight,
or The Batman Knight, or The Batman Meets the Joker,
The Dark Batman,
if it had been called anything other than simply The Dark Knight, if it had been called Batman: The Dark Knight, it would have suffered from a weaker title. They changed it to The Dark Knight, and it was a triumph, an Oscar-winning triumph of a superhero movie and a movie in general. Think about this, Skyler. Are you aware of a little movie starring Charlton Heston called The 10 Commandments?
I am, yes.
Do you know the original title of The 10 Commandments?
The 9 Commandments, yeah.
It was originally going to be The 9 Commandments because somebody had misread the Bible. They thought there were only 9. Day 2 of filming, Charlton Heston speaks up. He says, wait a minute. I found a 10th one of these commandments.
Was he the script supervisor, essentially?
He's Charlton Heston. He was one of the biggest stars in the world at the time. The man gets to say, wait a minute, to any crowd, any room he's in. He calls the shots. He's Chuck Heston.
You know what they should have called it is the 11 Commandments, and then everyone would have gone to the theater to see what that new one was.
Wow. I'll say it. You're bordering on sacrilege right now.
Is that blasphemy to say that they could create a new...
sacrilege. You might be bordering on blasphemy, but I think you're closer to sacrilege.
I don't know why you said sacrilege and I heard blasphemy. Must be these new headphones.
Pretty interesting. Maybe the title got changed in your head. Oh. Maybe you were thinking about blasphemy, and just because I was saying sacrilege. My point is, 10 Commandments was once 9 Commandments. Tootsie, the legendary Dustin Hoffman vehicle Tootsie.
Yeah.
Original title. You know it? Because I do.
What is it?
Dorothy or Izzy?
That's great.
Is it? It's got a question mark on it. People say there's a curse of the question mark.
Dorothy or Izzy? It rhymes. It leaves me wondering. I feel like a lot of these original titles, they leave you with questions, and then these ones
title is literally a question.
Right, literally a question.
But the movie starts with us knowing that Michael is Michael, and Michael is planning to disguise himself as Dorothy. So Dorothy or Izzy already undermines what the audience already knows. They changed it to Tootsie, a beloved nickname from Dustin Hoffman's mother. Bada bing, bada boom. The movie's a legendary hit. By the way, I've discussed Tootsie on my most recent podcast, View the Right Thing with Wes Weizenhofer. Download it now on iTunes. And you will not stop me from plugging. Question for you.
Yeah.
There's a movie. Been around longer than you and I have been on this earth. 4 friends go on a canoeing trip. 2 of them wind up in the woods. They're fell upon by really nasty, horny hillbillies.
We talking Deliverance?
We are now. You know what we could have been talking if somebody hadn't said, wait a minute, this title stinks, let's call it Deliverance.
What?
You know what that movie was almost called?
I don't.
Superman 3.
Well, that just doesn't make any sense.
1972, Deliverance was released. 1978, Superman 1 was released. But for some reason, back there when they started filming Deliverance, somebody somewhere along the line said, we're going to call this movie Superman 3. Wait and see what happens. It's going to be a gold mine. And fortunately, somebody smarter, somebody wiser came along and shut that idea down. And now we understand and know and fear the lesson of deliverance.
I disagree again.
You disagree?
I think that if they had called it Superman 3, again, it would have given the audience a lot of questions. I would have gone to the theater thinking, when's Superman going to show up? I'm a Superman fan. You know, I would want to see...
But then that's false advertising.
Is it?
The falsest of advertising, unless you maybe assume that Burt Reynolds' character is some sort of Superman in disguise.
There you go. He's a Superman. Maybe they put a space in between Super and Man. Now you've got a Superman, and you're getting away with the legal issues.
He did really wield that bow and arrow fishing contraption rather well.
Mm-hmm. They could have pulled it off. I think they would have made more money.
You'd rather sit down to watch a movie about camping, canoeing, and man-on-man sexual assault and have it be called Superman 3, which was later made as a movie about the Superman everyone knows and loves.
Maybe they wouldn't have made the travesty that was Superman 3.
How dare you?
You like Superman 3.
It's one of Richard Pryor's strongest films.
That's not saying much.
How dare you again? The man was in Silver Streak, Brewster's Millions, The Toy, several other movies, and you're gonna ding him for Superman 3?
All right.
I thought I understood you, Skyler Caleb.
If you're a Superman 3 fan, I feel like if the series had ended after 2 because there was another movie called Superman 3 and they didn't want to copy it, I think we would have all been in a better place this Christmas.
Well, we'll never, ever, ever know.
I guess
because
not.
Somebody made the smart move to change the title to Deliverance, thereby freeing up Superman 3. The world's a better place.
Well, I guess we may never come to an agreement, but I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for finally having me on.
Yeah. Not sure if it'll happen again, but is there anywhere that people can tweet at you? Or
you can always tweet at me as @SteveInNoHowood. I've recently been told that's a bit clunky. I'm considering changing it, but for now, it's been 9 years. @SteveInNoHowood. Stays right where he is.
Again, I think you should stick with the original instinct and not change that.
Right. I also do a podcast, as I previously mentioned. It's called View the Right Thing, where we also talk movies, more than just one movie.
We don't talk about one movie. We talk about the title change of one movie.
Fortunately for you, I like your ideas, and I like this movie, so I'm going to keep listening.
Thank you.
I'd also like to point out I've been writing some pretty cool fan fiction.
Oh.
I have a site out there. You can check out my fan fiction blog. It's a story that answers the question, what would happen if the characters from White Chicks were assigned a criminal case in which they had to continually seduce the characters from American Pie.
Continually
to get to crack this case that we're working on here.
Interesting.
I just finished chapter 80. It's available online.
Great.
Please take a look.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming in, and thank you to our talented engineers and call screeners. Couldn't do the show without you.
Have you seen my pants?
Your pants? Yeah, we just put them over there until the show's done.
This is not the end.